But basically, what you've had is ever since we pierced that initial pierce of the 2017 highs here, we've seen Bitcoin kind of go up a little bit, come down, up, down, and basically going sideways to slightly higher. So I'm inclined to think that in the near term, we continue to see that price action. I kind of expect one more move up here, maybe in the Bitcoin chart, hitting 25,500. There's a small chance we could get up to resistance at 28 and change. But ultimately, I think that later this year, when that shoe drops, that the Fed can't save the day and it causes a big risk reduction, right? You have a risk off environment. We know that Bitcoin goes down in a risk off environment. Once the stock market investors realize that, it's going to filter through to crypto. And I do think there's still one more leg lower before we finally get a bottom. And I'm still pricing in really a target price of around $13,000 to $12,000 on that next flush.
Got it. That makes sense. So you're saying this relief rally it's happening right now, we could hit about 25, between 25 to 30, and then we go down to new lower lows.
Yeah. That's exactly what I think right now. And again, the easy way for us to tell is to look at this channel, right? So see this upsloping the bottom line, that's kind of keeping price in check. As long as price stays in here, I think you favor neutral to upside, maybe here or here. But if you break this line, this is a definitive trend line connecting all these lows. That's where I think you start to flush. You'll probably get a small bounce at the previous 2017 high and then eventually break through that. So I think, again, yeah, short-term neutral to positive on Bitcoin from here. And then again, later this year, you got to expect one more flush out. And it probably will be the nastiest and the worst in terms of fear, because always the end of cycles are the scariest, right? Where things, imagine seeing Bitcoin at 12 or 10,000. Everyone's going to start to doubt, like, will Bitcoin survive? Can it survive? That's when you actually, as an investor, need to start thinking about really buying into it.
Yeah, absolutely. When there's blood on the streets, right?
That's right. That's
Um,
exactly it.
do you think that sometimes there's narratives that flow with price movements, whether the price is going up or down? Do you foresee there being any type of catalyst? Maybe another crypto company goes bankrupt or something economically happens, a macro factor?
Yeah, so I think the narrative right now is, and what's interesting for me is that you can see the kind of the angle on Bitcoin's been very sideways to slightly up. It's not been vertical bouncing. And I think part of that, and what's interesting is if you look at the NASDAQ's really ripped up, and those usually coincide. So a lot of people have been saying, well, why hasn't Bitcoin had a big move up like the NASDAQ instead of just going slightly up sideways? And I think the answer there is that, with Celsius and Voyager and all these other ones, you have a lot of money that's just scared. Like, who wants to put their money in with these brokers and be in crypto when who knows what the next shoe to drop is, which broker is going to go under, which one's going to file for bankruptcy. So I think that's kind of keeping a lid on the upside price in Bitcoin as well. But I think later this year, that narrative is going to shift to that panic sell-off. And I do think the final flush out will be something major. I don't know if it's Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy's finally throwing in the towel and dumping their Bitcoin at like 10,000. Maybe we see a bigger broker go bankrupt. I mean, all these possibilities are there, but I do think more is going to happen before you get an ultimate bottom.
Mm. And, let's say with the scenario you mentioned, Bitcoin goes on to the 12 to 13K range. How long do you think we stay there? I know that's a hard question to answer, but is it a few months and then we start slowly, steadily moving our way up?
Yeah, so if past cycles are any indication, and I can show, we can go to the 2017 cycle here. So what's interesting about the 2017 cycle is you kind of had this period where we had the big dump out, and then you had this lots of chop for a while, which could be what we're doing right now. I'm not sure, but that would make sense if it were to go till like October, November. And then you had this final flush out. And then notice how it took a while for it to kind of digest before finally starting to make that next move up. So again, if you look at this final flush, it kind of bottomed out in December of 2018. And then the next move up, you could arguably say, kind of started in April. So my guess is you have about 6 months of chop around the lows where you have people that are saying, this is the worst. And then you have people that are nibbling, maybe smart money starting to buy down there. And you get that kind of exchange where neither side is winning. They're just exchanging shares from people that are fearful with people that are buyers and saying, okay, this is the right time to accumulate. So my guess is, yeah, you'll see usually bottoms, you'll see a lot of chop as the bottom is made.
So it's safe to say you will be shorting.
Well, so this is actually really interesting. And to be clear, like, if there's one thing I know, it's that it's very hard, and it's very hard for me to pick exact bottoms, right? So like when we were down at 19,000, I basically announced that I was going to be buying my first hodl position out of a multiple, right? And the idea there is that, I basically in my head, I love Bitcoin long term. I'm such a big bull long term, even though it doesn't seem like that. I'm just a chart guy. So if it tells me it's going down, I have to go with that. I can't, make believe. So basically in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm going to put X amount of money in Bitcoin as a hodl position at some point. And at 19,000, I put like 1/6 of that to work. And the idea there is that basically I do believe it's going to go lower, but just in case it doesn't, I do want some skin in the game to participate on that upside. So basically 1/6 in at 19. If it dropped another 2 to 3,000, I do another 1/6, the other 2 to 3,000, another 1/6, basically dollar cost averaging all the way down to like 10,000. And then the way I look at it is like, even if it goes to 10,000, if my average price is 15,000, and it's going to 100 or 150 or 250, like at that point, it's a rounding error. So again, I think investors need to really be aware that even the pros, it's almost impossible to pick the exact low. So why try? Just kind of generally say, okay, well, this is a good level if I have that long-term thesis. And then you just start to kind of dollar cost average in.
Yeah, I usually think of it as a zone, an accumulation zone versus an exact number that I need to figure out because that's near impossible.
Yeah. I call it, it's funny, yeah, because I do the same thing. I call it the shotgun effect, where like if you're like a sharpshooter, you have to hit the exact target. But if you have a shotgun, like it sprays everywhere in that area. And it's like, listen, just as long as you get it in this area, you're good to go.
Yeah, and look, you brought up a great point, and folks sometimes go with their emotions, or they see a big news like yesterday we heard about BlackRock. That does not mean we are going back into a bull market today, right? We're still in the bear market, still downward trend. You got to look at the charts and the technical analysis, which obviously that's what you use as your gospel or source of truth.
Yeah.
So with Bitcoin potentially going down to those prices, altcoins are going to suffer tremendously. Are there any altcoins that you're focusing on, maybe looking to short, or you would look to accumulate if as things get at lower valuations?
Yeah, so I think like, for me, number one is I think that Ethereum is going to survive. I think it's got enough built on it where it's going to survive. The question is how low does it go? And I think, again, in terms of the chart, what's amazing about the chart is we have hit resistance here on Ethereum. You can see these pivot lows right here. And then look at exactly where price went. It pulled back. Now it's trying to break through there. If it does break through there, maybe we get up to this 2,000 level. Maybe off chance we get to this downsloping line, which connects all the recent highs. But the bottom line is, to me, this is just an interim rally before another leg lower. And the key is, where are we going to go? And my guess is you're looking at like $650 or so. I think that would coincide nicely with the 12 to 13,000 level on Bitcoin. So I do think, again, you have that potential downside, but this is, again, one that I think will survive. So it's one that I'm very interested in kind of hodling at the right levels. I don't have any yet. I was actually going to buy my first one at like 830 right here. There was this little pivot point right here, and it just never got there. It never got there, so I didn't get filled. But the bottom line is, as a trader, you learn very quickly that you'll miss a bunch of trades, and that's okay, because there's always more trades coming around the corner. Like a lot of the kind of the retail crowd is always like, oh my goodness, I missed a trade. I got to chase it now. I'm just like, you know what? Missed a trade. It's just another one of the thousands that I've missed in my trading career. But you know what? I only have to catch this handful, and I'll make great money. And anytime I let that discipline slide and I chase, I almost inevitably can guarantee that's my losing trade. And it's just like, damn it, why did I chase it? Why did I break my rules? And so that's just kind of interesting. But I think Ethereum is interesting. If you look at some of these other ones, Polkadot, for instance, We can zoom in on Polkadot. Polkadot's trying to have a little bit of a bullish run here. It has to break this area, $8.80. But if it breaks 880, I think you have a shot of going to maybe $10.80. So I mean, I think there is some near-term upside in some of these before that leg down. It's just a matter of your time frame. Like, not everyone can be a swing trader. If you're not a swing trader, just sit on the sidelines or dollar cost average in.
Now, the service that you provide, and I'm curious, you do you provide like the signals and trades you're making, or do you like trade other folks, their capital?
Yeah, for crypto at least, I don't trade anyone else's capital. It's just, I do it for myself, and I just put out the signals. So verifiedinvestingcrypto.com, it's just purely, basically when I see a level, when I see a signal that's a high probability trade signal, I'll put out the long or short at the exact price. I do my recommended portfolio percentage too, because I think that's really helpful to people. Like people always are like, wait, are you doing everything? Are you doing like 1%? And so I do that as well to guide them. And then each day I do a video, which kind of we walk through all the technicals of the chart. So it's almost like an educational video every single day. So yeah, it's definitely a cool little service there. And again, it's great to see people that, I have people in the service now that they bought in at like 65,000 because they got caught up in momentum. And now they're like, thank goodness I'm finding out that there's a different way to do it where it actually makes sense and I can make money on these type of moves.
And is there a particular exchange or platform you use for your longs and shorts?
So not in particular. I have a bunch of different brokers. So this is the kicker, right? Even before we started seeing some of these brokers having issues and not allowing withdrawals, I was always one where I come from a stock world where your investment account is FDIC insured, and I'm very aware that crypto accounts aren't like that. They're not insured by the government, and so I spread my money around through multiple brokers, and that way, if one has an issue, at least it's not all my money. And I think that just mitigates. So it's interesting because as a trader, you always are looking for high percentage, low risk trades. And I think as a trader, once you get good at that, you kind of start to replicate that in your daily life, right? Where, okay, well, how do I mitigate risk with a broker? Well, spread your money with 3 or 4 brokers, doing things like that in life. And it works really, really well.